Podcast. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly dungeon user this evening. Tonight, I am continuing on with my participation in 2018's RPG-A-Day event. This is for every day in the month of August for 2018 regarding role-playing games and the play of role-playing games and so forth. Today's question is, how can players make a world seem real? Which I think is a really interesting game, because you would think that it's the DM's job to try and make the world seem real. So I like how that kind of inverts the expectation of whose job it is to sort of, to do that, and also recognizing the collaborative aspect of role-playing. Let me just double check first, because we have had some issues with the streaming this past weekend. No, it appears that I am in fact live, so that is good. And while I did fall down yesterday, we're going to be putting the sign back up to be 0 days without running over 10 minutes in our answers, and I'm going to try and keep myself to a tight 10 for this answer too. So I'm looking at the clock right now, and I know when I need to end. So for this question, I think one of the things, again, recognizing that role-playing is a collaborative experience, I think that it's not necessarily, it's not just the job of the players, to make a world seem real. There needs to be certainly some engagement from the DM on the DM side as well too. But I think that a simple answer is, and this is something I've talked about with friends about when you're playing with people who normally dungeon master or people who normally play. The people who normally DM, I think on the most part, are more inclined to engage with the world as players, and more inclined and try to help the DM to move shit along in the fiction by either interacting with other players in a meaningful way, or by by trying to ask probing questions about what's going on in the world. So regardless of however you set up your campaign, and obviously there's a difference between how much the players interact with the campaign or interact with the world and make it therefore feel real by structuring the campaign. If it's a more narrative or like scripted kind of storyline, it really is the DM who's pushing things along, and the players will be interacting with stuff. But I think that it's not quite the same as when it's in a sandbox style, where the obligation is on the players to interact with that believable real world that's out there. So, but I think that the lessons that can be applied for either of those types of setups, whether it's script or sandbox or somewhere in between of a mixed kind of campaign, really it's the players can make it feel real, which I think is to their benefit. If it's there's greater verisimilitude in the game, it just makes it more engaging and more immersive of an experience. The way they do that is by interacting with the world that's before them, either on a specific physical, where it's you're not just looking at a asking what a wall looks like and what a door looks like, and what you're hearing and what it smells like and things like that. But on a more, I think, a more substantial level, it's by interacting with the NPCs. Either when you're having downtime, or people you encounter in a dungeon or in an environment or on a spaceship or whatever the fuck it is, wherever your game's set, by interacting with the NPCs in a way beyond just trying to kill them. Real life, we have shit ton of people we encounter in our daily lives that don't just either hire us to do something, or we kill them because we encounter them. And I think that unfortunately, that is thinking of, like, say, like the Pathfinder adventure paths. That's kind of the extent of the people you meet in the course of those things. It's really just like, obviously it's not it's not that. It's not just that, or maybe I guess people who are going to sell you shit. So you have your people who hire you, your resource dumps, and or your info dumps, or your people you're going to kill or defeat. And I think that if you interact with the world, whatever whatever those broad characters are, the world beyond just getting levels and getting better loot. The more that you have specific in-fiction goals, the more that will feel real, because it will establish more aspects of it. I mean, the campaign world does not exist. It's not like a you know, it's not like a fully fleshed out place where you'll necessarily know on, you know, what, or the DM will know what specific NPCs behind door X or door Y. And like if you're running the, what is it, the city state of the Invincible Overlord, then yes, you may know that. But even then, those characters are not part of your campaign technically until you actually are encountering them. So you think of it like a gray fog of everywhere beyond wherever the players presently are or have come from. And as they're moving along, that fog is being rolled back as they're encountering more and more things. If you decide to go as a player off of what is an obvious answer for you, then maybe, you know, that's a way of exploring and filling in more of the world. I mean, that can be done to the detriment of the campaign where you're just being a dick and trying to do something as clearly like, you know, the campaign is about doing X and you've decided you're going to do Z, or you're going to do 2, you know, like something that is like, I know this game's about, you know, discovering what's underneath the secrets of this mountain, but I'm going to go to this other kingdom and do some other shit. If you know, that's obviously an extreme, and that's not helpful. That's not being a team player in what is a team sport. But I mean, doing other things like, you know, interacting with characters or NPCs you find interesting, and thinking about what other things beyond just loot and killing and whatever else that your character wants, that'll give you a way to inform what you want to do in the game and give the DM an opportunity to flex their improv skills and fill in some more stuff. And also to provide other ways of, you know, of getting adventure, of engaging the players and getting them to do things. If the campaign is, say, about, you know, this growing threat of hobgoblins in a forest nearby, you know, and your players are spending time in town interacting with NPCs and whatnot too, well, that's terrific because it gives them something to give a shit about. It gives them things that they have meaningful connections to, that they are, what do you call it, that they are going to care about when that threat, you know, starts to threaten the town. That's more of DM advice, but I mean, the reason I mention that is to say that even if your players are wasting time fucking around in town or whatever else, and they're not pursuing the goals that you have clearly set out as the you know, as the goal of that campaign, all that stuff will help. You know, all that stuff will make for a meaningful game because the players are engaging with stuff and making it real for them in the sense of making tangible in-game connections. That gray fog is faded back, and now this game happens to be about, you know, Anne the baker, who one of the players really, you know, connected with and decided it's like they're courting them or whatever, or, you know, Chet the bully who so and so always gets in a fight with at the bar. You know, all that stuff I think is, if you encourage your players to do that stuff, that helps them. I mean, that helps you help them make the world more real. So I guess getting back to the original question, I always, I guess, lapse into DM mindset, and I think in this particular case it's because that kind of engagement with the world can be disruptive sometimes. You know, if a player decides to go off and just be a shit disturber, then that is not really, it may be making the world more real for that player, but I suppose what it does in the long run, because if you're a responsible DM and you're not just taking them aside and saying, look, don't do that, you can provide in-world responses to that kind of nonsense that will still make their world feel very real. I mean, that disruptive player may not like the consequences when, you know, they mouth off to, say, like the town council and a lot of other stuff, and then they're suddenly find themselves, you know, banned from staying anywhere in town, or blacklisted, or merchants won't sell them stuff, or whatever. You know, that stuff still, I think, makes the world more real. You know, when the world is shown to have consequences by them engaging with it, that again makes it feel more real. So while the answer to the question is that players can make the world feel more real by, or seem more real by actually engaging with the things outside of the, like, you know, glowing yellow question marks above, or the exclamation marks above the quest giver's head, or whatever. That's one of the really the things that really is special about role-playing games, you know, more so than what other games are, is that you do have the opportunity to constantly refresh what the game is about. And if, as a DM, you allow that, you can just reorient the way that whatever you had planned to get them to, even in a scripted story, whatever way you plan to get them to a certain point, you can find ways to adapt that. If you're being like less, you know, rigidly married to the way that the adventure is supposed to, you know, quote unquote, supposed to unfold, you can allow them to do all that stuff and still get them where they need to go story-wise. And if you're playing a sandbox game with them, that, I mean, whatever they're doing and engaging with, that's actually what the game's about anyway. So you're succeeding by encouraging players to do that kind of stuff. So anyway, that is, I'm pressing up against 10 minutes already. So that is my answer to question 6, or rather the question for day 6 of RPGaDay 2018. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding this answer, or if you want to tell me what you think makes what players can do to make a world seem more real, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below, or you can shoot me a tweet at Dungeon Musings, or you can shoot me an email at dungeonmusings@gmail.com. That's Dungeon Musings, plural, @gmail.com, all one word for Dungeon Musings. As well, you will notice that there are links in the bottom of the description here to 2 different things. One of them is a link to the fundraising, the charity fundraising campaign that we're currently running in connection with, oops, someone's outside, with SOS Children's Villages International, which is a really terrific charity that benefits high needs kids, both in terms of advocacy and in terms of actual benefit, or actual, not benefit, but actual assistance, both in North America and elsewhere in the world. You can find full information about SOS Children's Villages International through on the link, and you can get through to the campaign as well. If you have enjoyed this video or the other videos on my channel, I'd ask that you consider clicking through and making a donation. Even $1 will make a difference for the folks at SOS Children's Villages. And if you want to know why we're doing this campaign, there's a link to a video I shot explaining my rationale for it and my connection with SOS Children's Villages International. So, but I should again end by saying that this is a completely optional thing. Do not feel that you are obliged to do that. Just if you, I would ask that you consider clicking through and learning a little more about the charity and about their campaign for Heroes Save Villages. So anyway, tomorrow's question is, how can a GM make the stakes important? That'll be interesting, and it will be interesting to see if I can get it in a 10-minute video. So I'm at 11 minutes right now, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks, folks, for listening, and I will look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for tomorrow's entry. Bye-bye.